What's up, guys? Welcome back to Spoiling Movies. My name is Chris, and I'm going to talk all about a movie I just watched, and I'm going to spoil it. I'm going to tell you everything that happened and how I felt about it at the end. This week's movie is Venom. Pre-spoiler opinion. It's actually kind of a fun movie. It's an interesting take on the character. It's actually a pretty solid imagining of Venom if he was never involved with Spider-Man first, which he was in the comics and cartoons and stuff. But it's okay. It's not a bad movie, and it was pretty interesting seeing Venom done in a pretty respectful way, I'd say. So I would recommend it, just to see it and get your opinions for yourself. And now I'm going to tell you everything about the movie and spoil it. The movie starts with a spaceship that is crashing. There's something going on. You're hearing the radio from the people talking to the ground crew, and something's fucked up. They're like, something's going on. Ah! So it comes down to Earth, crashes, giant explosion. People are picking up the wreckage. There's these weird looking goo canisters of like moving goo. Somebody says one of them had escaped. They had like 5 of them, and one of them had escaped. So one of the dead people or dying people is being taken in like an ambulance with a couple other people. That person that was dying is not dying. They are back to life, and then they use symbiote goo powers to destroy, to kill the people in the van, and then escape from the van. So some person is walking around with an alien symbiote thing in their body. They show Eddie Brock and his waking up, and his girlfriend is there. Apparently she is a lawyer for the Life Foundation, which was the people doing the space launch thing to collect specimens, blah, blah, blah. She's their lawyer. She's waking up Eddie Brock and saying, don't miss your thing, or whatever. And he's, it's fine, whatever. For some reason, the dialogue in those early scenes took me out. And I think that's kind of what fucked me up the first time I watched it. Is like some of the dialogue is like almost headache inducing, and I don't know what it is exactly. When Brock is on his way to go to his job, they show a short montage showing what his job is. He is some sort of controversial reporter guy. Brock's boss tells him that he needs to go talk to Carlton Drake. He's the guy in charge of the Life Foundation with the ship that had crashed. And the girlfriend and Brock talk again at some restaurant thing, and I kind of hated the dialogue once again. Something about it kind of gave me a headache. That night, when the girlfriend is sleeping over at his place, he gets into her computer connection with a case for Drake, and there's like missing people, or people that they think are missing or dead, and they don't know, and that's part of the case. Eddie Brock meets with Carlton Drake and is having a conversation about like how the Life Foundation started, and what you're doing with all this stuff, and you meant to do good, but some things are kind of weird. And then he mentions the missing people and the confidential information that he's not supposed to know. And he's like, no, interview's over. No, I'm not talking about that. Get out of here. They kick him out. Security comes, and he's yelling like, yeah, but what about them? You got a responsibility. And Drake's like, have a nice life. Eddie Brock meets with his boss at the reporter place, and he's like, you shouldn't have done that. That's a really bad thing, and we told you not to talk about these kind of things with unfounded sources and stuff. And then as he's leaving, the boss says, have a nice life. Brock meets up with his girlfriend outside of her place, and she's carrying a box full of all her shit. She's been fired immediately because they found out what he did, or because he had some connection with her. So he's fired and she's fired. The lady that had been taken over by the symbiote parasite thing that escaped is like walking through a marketplace, and she like pulls out a live eel out of a tank in some Asian marketplace and like starts eating the eel, and some guy freaks out and she changes her arm to like a weird looking spear thing and cuts his throat, and then other people are like, oh yeah, what the fuck? And then she does a weird thing and a bunch of spikes fly out and they kill a bunch of people. 6 months later, they're doing tests with the symbiote. One of them, it merges with a little bunny rabbit, and like it works. Brock goes to a convenience store. While Brock is shopping for stuff, some criminal guy walks in and like, don't you forget my change. Also, the price just went up for my protection. Brock does nothing. They're showing him to be like a cowardly guy that doesn't want to like stand up and try and fight against the person. Scientist lady sneaks around the same convenience store that Brock is always in, starts talking to him about what's going on, and convinces him to come back to their lab with her. After hesitating and being like he doesn't want any part of it, he realizes that he should be a part of it, so he goes with her back to the lab. They get in immediately. Nobody notices some extra dude walking around like, where are the cameras in this super secret multi-million-dollar probably facility? He's taking pictures of, things that are in the chambers. It looks like one of the symbiotes has like died on the floor in one of the chambers, and then he sees one of his homeless friends from earlier in the movie, and she has been taken over by one of them, and she's kind of like freaking out, like, save me, what do I do? So he grabs a fire extinguisher and starts trying to bash the glass, trying to get through, and he finally manages to bust into the chamber that she is, and she like kind of lunges toward him, just takes him down, and then we see like a little goo symbiote thing, and it gets on Brock. All the alarms start going off. Brock starts running out of there. He kicks a door off its hinges, starts running. All the security people are chasing him through some woods outside of the place. But when they're like right up on him, about to get him, somehow he just like disappears. And then we see him, he's up in a tree. He's like at the top of the tree hanging on, like, how the fuck did I get here? So when he gets back to his apartment, he starts feeling very shitty and weird, and he starts just grabbing things out of his fridge and just eating like cold chicken and all kinds of stuff, and he drinks a beer and whatever, and he just pukes a bunch of it out, and he's like, oh, what is happening to me? The other lady that had the escaped symbiote thing finds some little girl and decides to attach onto the little girl. Brock finds his girlfriend with her new boyfriend at some fancy restaurant, busts in and says, like, some weird things are going on. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do about it. And he's, like, trying to eat shit off plates. And he's like, this is dead food. I don't want to eat any of this dead food, but I'm very hungry. And he, like, jumps into a lobster tank filled with 5 lobsters. And he's just, like, happy to be, like, in the cool water. And he grabs one of the lobsters that's alive and just fucking crunches on it. And they're like, you need some help. So her and her boyfriend is a doctor. They take him to a place and do an MRI thing. And the MRI, like, fucking makes him freak out, and you start seeing like there's something in him that's fucked up. There's a couple little moments where you hear the voice in his head again, and it says food, and then like some other shit happens and it says hungry. Drake decides to give the scientist lady over to the symbiote, one of the ones. He's going to use her as a test subject and also as punishment for him finding out that she was the one that let Brock in there. A bunch of Drake's security people, goons, show up at his apartment. It starts telling him, like, don't answer that door. Don't do this. Don't. And it starts talking to him. Like, he's putting his hands up because they got guns on him, and he's like, what are you doing? You're making us look bad. And he's like, no, I'm not. And he's like, yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. Like, he's trying to put his hands up. The fucking Venom says, like, don't do it. You're making us look bad. And he ends up jumping out the window and surviving, and then like breaking through somebody else's window in their apartments, and the other guys find him and they're like trying to shoot at him, but he's protecting himself and the people around, so his Venom thing shoots out and makes a shield where all the bullets just hit the shield. And then there's a big old car chase scene, and there's drones attacking. Venom is taking over his body, but mostly shooting out like black tentacle things and making things happen and making sure that he survives or whatever. But like they got these drones that are just flying around the city and just running into things and exploding in blue fire. As some big secret organization, don't you think you'd want to be like a little more secretive than just having drones just fly into things and explode? But in the end, he fucking crashes and burns and just falls, and his leg is broken and some of his body's broken. Bad guy, security guy, is walking up and he's like, I'm not so cool now or whatever anymore. And then the symbiote just like fixes his body, fixes all his broken shit, and he stands up and gets the full Venom fucking coverage. When he's full on Venom, he's talking to the bad guy, and he's like, eyes, lips, pancreas, so many snacks, so little time. And everybody else is chasing him, so Venom just runs like a crazy dog person and jumps into the lake and like swims to safety. Eddie Brock and the creature symbiote Venom thing inside of him have a little conversation. It actually physically comes out as like a face, and it like talks to him. I'm basically like, I'm gonna kill you if you don't work with me. There's nothing you can do about this. Turns into Venom. Eddie turns into Venom and climbs up the building all the way to the boss's office, break in the window, leaves a little note and his cell phone saying like, this is what you need to see and what you need to focus on. Brock and Venom get down to like the lobby area, and there's a whole bunch of cops, and they start throwing like smoke bombs and shit. And there's a really cool scene where Venom is fighting the cops. He takes out a lot of those cops. He hurts or possibly kills a lot of those policemen. The girlfriend shows up kind of for no reason and is like, what's going on here? What the hell? So he turns back to normal Brock, and he's like, there's something going on and this is not right. Ex-girlfriend takes him in the car and is like, there's something fucking going on, whatever. and Venom's still talking to him in his head, so he's trying to explain things to the girlfriend character about like sound. The sound vibration hurts the symbiote people. She says, "So sound is like their kryptonite, right?" They brought up kryptonite, which is specifically a Superman DC thing. The only other time I can think to relate this to, which is kind of odd, is in either the first or second Spider-Man movie, where Aunt May says something to him, Spider-Man, about not being, you're not Superman, you know. Like, well, you can't mention DC in a Marvel movie. What are you doing? But he also says fire. Fire is a problem. So sound above a certain decibel or something, and fire are the symbiote's weaknesses. Then the little girl that was taken over by the other symbiote walks right into the lab, immediately takes over Drake's body. Like, do they not have security cameras? Girlfriend's new boyfriend guy says, "We found some weird shit on your MRI and we need you to come back in." So they put him back into the room. Venom starts freaking out. He's like, "I don't want to mess with this guy. I don't like what they're talking about." And girl turns up sound waves that like force the symbiote out of Brock's body, falls back out of the chamber. They close the door. The Venom symbiote is still in that little room. The Venom symbiote finds its way out of its little ventilation grate thing, sees a dog, latches onto the dog, gets inside it. The dog chases down lady girlfriend. But while Brock is about to be killed by the goon people, some of them start getting snatched up by weird tentacle shit. His girlfriend shows up, and she's got the full Venom shit all over her, and she looks like a different character. I thought they were actually going to introduce some of the other symbiotes. Lady meets up with Brock, and they share a kiss, and while they're kissing, the symbiote goes from her back onto him. It's almost like a bromance. Like, Venom really likes hanging out with Eddie Brock so much that during this kiss is when he decided to go back to him. So Venom is explaining that the Riot is the other symbiote, and he's crazy. He's about to use one of Carlton's spaceships to go into space to get the other symbiotes to come back and take over the planet. "On my planet, I'm kind of a loser, like you." And I was like, Venom is cool. Venom is very cool. Like, don't call yourself a loser in this movie, in your introduction movie. Venom's cool. You're cooler than that, bro. Brock is asking Venom in his head, like, so what's the deal with this Riot guy? And Venom says, "He's got shit you've never seen." So Venom and Brock go and find Drake and Riot, and immediately Venom tells Riot, we are not going to let you take this world. Riot starts changing his body in big old fight sequence, but he changes his body into like sharp shit, like a bunch of blades, a spiked ball tentacle thing, but it's always about blades. So apparently Venom is the gooey tentacle fists and shields guy, and Riot is just all about blades and knives. He said he's got shit you've never seen before. I've seen knives. I've seen axe blades. I've seen sharp shit. I've heard of it. While they're fighting, they're like tearing each other up, and it's like, it's messy. It looks really messy, because there's like, you see like Eddie inside all of the goo while they're going around, and you see Drake inside his other goo. So while Brock is separated from Venom, Riot shows up, uses his big stabby arm to stab him in the stomach. Venom takes the bit of the symbiote sharp shit that had gone through Brock and uses it as a knife thing, jumps up on the spaceship as it's taking off, and Riot is in it, and he says, "Have a nice life." And he uses the thing, he goes down and like cuts the fucking rocket fuel as he's falling down. Giant explosion. Venom decides to separate himself from Brock. Like, the fire is gonna kill Venom, but he did it to save Brock. And then Brock falls in some water, and the rocket explodes, and, you know, no more Riot and Drake. And then they cut to Brock and girlfriend lady talking on a stoop, and she's like, "I'm sorry about Venom." You know, as girlfriends would. "I'm sorry about that symbiote that you had a thing with. I'm sorry, your relationship is over with that thing." And then you get the Stan Lee cameo, and he's like, "Well, you know, it's sad to see you guys break up, but you know, everything could be good." Brock starts walking away, Venom starts talking to him again. So somehow they had reconvened. Brock starts explaining, like, there's good people and there's bad people, and we're not going to eat good people. You can only eat the bad people. But Venom's like, but I'm hungry. Well, you better find some bad people, because I'm going to eat your liver if you don't. So he goes back into the convenience store that he loves to go to. Same bad guy shows up for the protection money for the clerk lady, and this time Brock and Venom go up to him, and they say that great line from the trailers that we saw before we saw the movie. I could eat your arms and your legs. I could eat your head, and then you'd just be this legless, headless, armless thing just rolling down the street like a turd in the wind. And it's the stupidest fucking line I've ever heard. And then they show him go chomp. And the lady working there is like, ah! And he reverts back to Eddie Brock, and he's like, I got a parasite. It's bad. I'm trying to take care of it. See you later, Miss Jen. Post-credits scene, Eddie Brock goes to meet Cassidy, whatever his name is, Woody Harrelson, in a jail cell, and starts, like he's doing an interview with him. There's gonna be carnage. And I was like, boo! And that was the movie. But I actually had a problem for some reason, with the dialogue between him and his girlfriend toward the beginning of the movie, and then a couple little moments in between. There's a lot of ham-fisted shit that's put into this. This movie definitely could have done with an R rating. It would have done much better, in my opinion, if it was an R rating. There's like at least 2 or 3 scenes where you see Venom opening his jaws and like chomping, and that's it. That's all they show. They just show a big mouth and then a chomp noise. And like, we need to see more than that. We need to see some blood and guts, something. Venom's voice was really, really good. That's pretty much how I pictured Venom's voice being. And his interaction, almost my favorite part of the movie, is Eddie Brock talking to Venom in his head. The visuals are pretty cool. The CG bothered me at little moments, and like certain ways that it could have been tweaked to make it seem better, I think. But actually, on the second watch, I wasn't bothered that much. When you have some weird living goo, like there's only so much you can animate and how to make it look realistic, and they did a pretty good job most of the time. Venom looks like Venom should. Of course, he's missing the big weird spider symbol thing because this is a different reimagining, but they did it in a pretty good way. Most of the movie shots were pretty good. The camera work was pretty good. The acting is also, like, I kind of have a problem with the way that they were acting depending on the script. I think Tom Hardy is a pretty good actor, but I think the script they gave him was very comic booky, and he actually made the character kind of interesting. I think it's kind of a decent way to tell the character's story, but as a comic fan, it bothered me in certain ways because they were telling it in a different way. It didn't have anything to do with the Spider-Man stuff, but they were doing their own thing, which is fine. But as a movie, certain parts of the comic-y dialogue didn't work for me. All the action stuff was mushed in. I don't know. It's still a little bit of an itchy movie for me, but it's okay. It's the best version of Venom we've seen so far, I think. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I always enjoy doing these things with you guys, and leave me a comment. Let me know how you feel about this, how you felt about Venom, or any comic stuff, or, whatever. Did you see it? Do you want to see it? Fun to you? Do you have the same issues that I did? Whatever. Just let me know. I like to read you guys' comments. Peace out, everybody.
I'm kind of a loser like you.
He meets with the boss guy, ends up walking through lady at the counter, gets what, and the